we find that a lot of the difficulties in the world is not that people aren't right about something, but that people take a model that works for some kinds of things and apply it to things where it isn't going to work. So it's really important to, when you're thinking about building state capability, to ask what's the type of problem that I'm building state capability to solve. Now before you watch the rest of this video, I want you to stop the video and write down a specific problem in a specific context that you're thinking about. It could be property tax collection in Cali, Colombia. It could be microcredit in Bangladesh. It could be educating children in India. It could be battling with HIV/AIDS in Africa. But think of a concrete problem, write it down, I'll wait. Welcome back. I want you to answer two questions about the problem that you've written down that will help us create a typology of what kind of implementation capability you're going to need. The first question to ask is your task transaction intensive? That is it going to take a lot of people working together to solve your problem, or can a relatively small number of people solve the problem? So transaction intensive differentiates what we call policy formulation, which often requires relatively small numbers of people to form, frame, and set up the policy that's to be implemented. That's not implementation intensive. The second question you want to ask yourself is, if your problem is transaction intensive, if you answer that it's going to require a large number of people to successfully carry out your task, then we want you to ask yourself, when your agents are carrying out the task, does it require them to exercise local discretion? Do they need to look carefully and respond to the particularities of the situation they're in, or can they follow a script? So we call this the exercise of local discretion. Now, earlier examples we talked about, like the post office, doesn't actually require the postal worker to exercise a lot of discretion. Everything about the world that's necessary for the postal worker to carry out his job is written into the address and the postage. Really small amount of information. He doesn't need to know what's in the package. He doesn't need to know if it's cookies from grandpa, or a check from an employer, or a bill from the phone company. His action is embodied completely in the address, but it could well be that it actually requires your agents to exercise their discretion. So these tasks we call logistics, like delivering the mail, like building infrastructure, some types of infrastructure, particularly the construction of facilities like schools. But these tasks we call implementation intensive, in that it's going to require large numbers of agents to look at the local conditions they're in and do the right thing, where the right thing to do is unique, tailored to the given situation. One of the difficulties with building state capability is that people think the world consists of just policy, in which some smart people in the capital make up the rules, and implementation is all logistics, so the only organizational capabilities we need are logistical capabilities. But that's not the world we live in. The world we live in and the functions governments need to carry out require agents to actively use their discretion to do the right thing. And what we want to talk about is building the capability of organizations to carry out the implementation intensive.